When the news of Jeffrey Epstein's suicide was announced, Cenk Uygur of the massively popular Young Turks network said if you were trying to set up a conspiracy, this is how you do it. So what do you think about these revelations in this incredible story and about the US presidential race where he's a candidate? I sat down face to face with Cenk to get his take on it and the ongoing war, of course, between Israel and Hamas, on which he's been very vocal. Cenk, it's great to see you here in Los Angeles. I feel like we've been seeing each other from across the water, often in very quite tense and fractious circumstances with big debates. So it's good to see you just one-on-one. And we're going to come to Israel and we'll come to the US election. You, of course, are running for president. But first, let's talk about the Epstein scandal, which every single day seems to produce ever more lurid headlines. What do you make of it?
Well, it's important because it's people in power that did terrible things and seem to have largely gotten away with it. So I like that people care about accountability on this issue. The problem is we don't really know exactly who did it and exactly what they did. So, you know, you've got Bill Clinton saying I was on the plane, but I wasn't on the island.
And you've got Richard Branson, who's come out vehemently denying there's any sex tape of him, as was supposedly revealed yesterday. There's lots of claim, counterclaim going on, very little hard evidence, which is indisputable, which could lead to potential consequence.
Yeah, so when he first died in prison, I thought, okay, there's going to be something that's determinative here. Did the video in the hallway in the prison work or did it not work? If it worked and we see that no one went into his cell, okay, then it's a suicide. I'm not particularly fond of conspiracy theories, etc. But if it didn't work, okay, well then that's a totally different issue. And as it turns out, oh golly gee, the guards were off and the video didn't work. Well, that leads you to many other speculation by nature of this beast, right? But look, even Trump was terrific friends with Epstein for a long, long time and said he knows that Epstein likes them young. So there's no question that he knew that Epstein was up to terrible things. But did he do it? I don't know. It's easy for the two sides to say, Clinton definitely did it, Trump definitely did it, but we don't actually know.
A lot of political game playing going on with the various names and different attitudes depending if it's one of your party. There's also, I think, with the Epstein scandal, a sense that you look at it in totality. You have Epstein, who was in jail and may have taken his own life or may have had it taken from him. We'll probably never know. The only other person who's been brought to account is Ghislaine Maxwell, his kind of madame figure in the whole thing. None of the other men who must have either known about Epstein's proclivities or actively joined him in some of them have ever been properly brought to book for this. Do you think they ever will?
Well, hard to tell, but one of the things that makes me wonder and why I brought up the videotape in the prison is because Epstein was supposed to have videotapes of a lot of this.
Right.
And yet we magically still haven't found the videotapes.
Right.
And under the Bush administration, the guy who let him go wound up, by the way, being the labor secretary for Trump. He's the one that let Epstein off the hook in the first place, right? Back in 2008. So magically, everyone keeps getting let off the hook in this case, except Ghislaine Maxwell, and of course on that one, Trump said that he was very fond of her.
Also, it seems to me there's sort of life before his first conviction and life after it, i.e. before the first conviction, then you can completely believe that people may have been, conned by this guy. But once he had that conviction in the early 2000s for, effectively a sex crime with a minor, pedophilia, once that happened, everyone who then continued to deal with him from Prince Andrew onwards, they surely are culpable by association.
Yeah, I think after 2008, you have no excuses at all. And everybody, I remember covering that story. And I remember saying, this is ridiculous. This is a slap on the wrist for a guy who might have done an enormous amount of pedophilia and been connected to, at the time we already knew he was connected to tons of people in finance, politics, people in power. After that, going back and still associating with him probably means you're an addict. Probably means you're not only don't mind that at all, but can't help but go and seek that out.
And what about that deal that was done at that time? I mean, it was such a murky, looking back now, terrible deal with the devil, it seems.
In the Epstein case, you have this guy who says, oh, this child molester, serial child molester, is going to serve a short time in prison, but he's not even really going to be in prison. He's going to get to go out during the day and still conduct business and still make a lot of money.
Will it have any bearing on the election this year?
Probably not, because people on both sides are implicated. And of course, they're treated differently, right? The Republicans think it's only Democrats because they have a mind freeze on anything that involves Trump. Even though Trump says, I was great friends with him, he's a terrific guy, he said back in the day, and I knew that he likes him young, right? They're like, nope, I don't hear it, I'm MAGA.
Let's come to the election. You're running for president. I mean, do you genuinely have any belief you could win? What is your real purpose for running?
Yeah, so I have 3 missions. So let me tell you the first one, which is Joe Biden's going to lose, and I need to push him out. He's at 33% right now. No one has ever recovered from being that low as an incumbent for any federal office, let alone president. He's down 14 points with independents. He's down 4 points with younger voters. He's down 5 points with Latinos. It is a disaster for Joe Biden. And right now, if we don't get him out, we are definitely going to lose to Donald Trump. He's losing every single swing state. We have to act now to get new candidates in, and that's mission number 1.
He would say, I beat him last time.
Look, Piers, I can give you 100 stats, but the bottom line is, no one with an approval rating this low has ever won for any federal office when they were this far down in an election season. That means Joe Biden would have to pull off literally the greatest political comeback in American history. Does anyone in their right mind think he's capable of that? There's no way he can do it.
How much of Biden's unpopularity is specific to his age? In other words, if it was Gavin Newsom, who was currently the incumbent president, with the record that Biden has had in the last 3 years, would he be polling much higher?
So, yes and no. A lot has to do with his age. 77% of Americans have said that they are concerned that he will not be healthy enough to finish a second term. But that is not the only issue. So in office, how is he done? You know, people say, oh my God, he did more than a normal Democratic president. That is a very low bar. Democratic presidents barely try. So did he do most of his agenda? No. 85% of his agenda is dead, and there's no dispute over that.
It's incredible to people outside of America that Donald Trump, who lost last time, has been pretty much a consistent loser in the electoral process since 2016. He's now facing nearly 100 criminal charges, and yet all that has done is fuel him and make him more popular, allow him to play the victim and see his poll numbers go up. What does that say about America and your political system?
So Donald Trump deserves almost all the criticism that he gets, and he breaks so many laws that he floods the zone. And then you don't know what to respond to because he says something maniacal here, he broke that law there, he's a lifelong criminal, etc. But the number one issue is the one that the media doesn't talk about, which is he's anti-establishment. That's why people like him. Democrats underestimate him at their peril, and they do it over and over again. So there's 3 issues here. One is, yes, he did do all those things, and sometimes the Democrats overreach anyway, right? Number 2 is what you're pointing out, which is that he's telegenic. He not in terms of looks, but in terms of he's entertaining.
He's charismatic.
Yes, and what Democrats don't understand is, sorry, but politics is now all media wars. That's what it is. Where do people get the information on who they're going to vote? Media, some form of media, not necessarily mainstream media, but some form of media. So you have to engage in the media wars, and Trump is fantastic at engaging in the media wars. He goes to wherever the cameras are, he grabs the spotlight. What does Biden do? Biden made his first speech against Trump just a couple of days ago. What are you waiting for, brother? He's done 200 speeches in the time that you've done one. That is a colossal media advantage and hence a colossal political advantage. But the third part of it is he's giving a giant middle finger to the establishment. Now, I don't want Donald Trump to win. I'm in this race. Why do I want to knock Biden out? Because I don't want him to lose to Trump.
If Biden is the candidate, do you think Trump wins if he wins the Republican nomination?
It's near 100%. So look.
And what would that mean for America?
Disaster. Total epic disaster.
Even Republicans who don't support Trump are now supporting him in large numbers because they believe the Democrats have overreached in the way that he's being prosecuted. And I can understand that. It's the same way they try to take him off the ballot. My first reaction was, why would you do that? All that does is make him more popular. And by the way, the Supreme Court inevitably will throw this out anyway.
There's still folks that I have a lot of adjectives for, I'll try to keep it under control, that still say 91 indictments. Well, all it's done is made him more popular.
Yes.
When are you going to get it through your thick, thick skull that people don't think like you do? So this normal person who's a liberal in Washington is like, well, I am outraged and I would never vote for anyone with 91 indictments. Yeah, brother, but you're not the average voter. The average voter doesn't see it that way and hasn't seen it that way. And the polling has showed it for nearly a year.